I don't ever want to think that I know everything, and I don't want to think that I know what people are going to like. I have no idea what people are going to like. I have honestly, no clue what the masses will like or dislike. I have no idea. So I just have to go along with the lines of my own ability to decide what I like. Same with music. I listen to all kinds of different music. Why is one thing more appealing than others? I don't know. Just is.
What's up, everybody? Keefy here from GhostCultMan.com. I am thrilled to be once again joined by the great King Buzzo of Melvins. How are you doing, sir?
Just partying.
Just partying. Rock and roll. How's life? How's LA? How's Dale? How's everybody?
Dale's good. As good as can be expected. We will eventually have a bunch of stuff planned with him. It was a gnarly operation that he had. And when we do get back together, we did a couple of tours with Cody, the guy we had from Big Business. And we're going to start doing two drummers again. That'll be a lot of fun.
That's super exciting. Yeah, Dale, for those that we reported the news, Dale had a back surgery, and it was rather... Neck and back? Was that it? Neck?
Right through here.
Oh, fuck hell. Yeah, that sounds tough. And I hope he's doing better. We love that dude. And he's been...
ripped out a bunch of discs and then put a big giant plate from the top of his spine all the way down into his chest.
That sounds like a lot. Wow, for anybody.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal. No thanks.
Yeah, no. Hard pass. I was in the hospital to start the year. No, thank you.
Oh, boy.
Good. Yeah, it was rough, but I'm better now. Sort of. But yeah, glad that he's on the mend, and I'm super excited to hear about the two drummers. I actually just talked to Jeff and Pike about Cody, so we were just gushing about Cody. It was like a Cody love fest. He's so great, and he's such a great physical drummer. That's like my favorite thing about him. Drummers don't hit hard anymore. Everybody's very concerned with precision and speed because of like technical death metal and black metal. But like that dude plays drums like Buddy Rich or John Bonham, like old school.
Buddy Bonham.
Buddy Bonham. That's right. We'll start calling him that. I'll tell him that when I see him next. But yeah, man, we're here to talk about Tarantula Heart coming out on Ipecac Recordings. The very prolific Melvins. I joked with Hazelmeyer about this. It's like it seems like your whole career is like one for you and one for two for you, one for you, two for me, kind of, with the constant output and like a lot of stuff with Ipecac the last 25 years. Happy anniversary, Ipecac Recordings. Basically put together to put out music you were on. Basically, you and Patton, and partially, and then also all the I was thinking about all the sort of in between records. This is it's weird. It's like the 38th anniversary of Stoner Witch, but also Prick, which was in AMREP. And then I always think about how underground Melvins still stays and how very intense. You guys have really not changed the music constantly, but like the way you do business seems to be very consistent.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the basic business model is that it's not going to work, so you behave as such.
Proceed accordingly.
Nothing worse to me in business than assuming something is going to work. It's just like, that's just a recipe for disaster to me. It's just like, I don't assume it's going to work. I think it'll be okay. Trust my judgment as far as like, whether I like it or not perversely going ahead saying, I don't care what anyone thinks. No, that's not it. It's like, do I really like this? Yes, I do. And then just realizing that, in the last 40 years, my decisions along the lines of music have been correct. It's not millions and millions of records sold, but it's enough, so I don't ever want to think that I know everything. And I don't want to think that I know what people are going to like. I have no idea what people are going to like. I have honestly no clue what the masses will like or dislike. I have no idea. So I just have to go along with the lines of my own ability to decide what I like. Same with music. I listen to all kinds of different music. Why is one thing more appealing than others? I don't know. Just is. So as long as I move forward with that in mind and just thought, well, as long as I didn't think, well, I'll just write a record like this and I'm sure it'll be everyone will love it and it'll be great. That's just like, no, that's a mistake. I just never done that. And I never will do that. As long as I don't do that, it'll be fine.
Makes sense. I mean, makes you maybe people think you're a contrarian, but actually you're just doing what makes sense to you. So
I'm not a contrarian at all.
I don't think so. Yeah, I never thought so.
It's not perverse. It is not perverse.
Right.
Like, I'm just going to do something weird. I don't think it's that weird.
Well, somebody else is weird because they're so boring and buttoned up and vanilla and linear, and they can't see in 3D and they can't think about anything else except like what's right in front of them. So
I suppose that's true. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like, people thought, to me, it's like at the time, people thought Yoko Ono was really weird. If you listen to that stuff now, it's not weird at all. Not at
No,
all.
no. People were also wrong about Yoko. Even if you're not, even if you were not anybody watching out there a huge Beatles fan, I highly recommend watching that Disney Let It Be Get Back thing that Peter Jackson did from Lord of the Rings. It was so amazing to watch these guys write a song in the room, pull it out of their ass, and then throw it away. Made me feel like the years of being in bands and the years of making music. It just made me feel so inferior.
Yeah, well, they were special, and you can't trust someone who doesn't like the Beatles. You can't. I mean, it's like out of all the stuff they did, all the vast majority of the vast majority of their stuff was basically different. So you can't find anything about them that you like. Nothing. I don't like the Beatles. That's just an asinine statement. I never can to me, it's just like, no, you've never listened to the Beatles. I've been in situations where I was around people who were like, I don't like the Beatles, and I play some song. Oh, what's this? Well, it's the Beatles. Oh, I like this. Yeah, well, that's what I thought. Contemporary investigation is always a good way to go through life.
And Yoko was brilliant, is brilliant. I don't care what anyone says. I'm always
Yoko was great. I mean, she was totally weird. She probably pushed John in ways that he wouldn't have normally. And having met her, and her and Sean, I was very impressed. And after going from being universally hated by the Beatles mafia to what is happening now, it's like, no, you guys were wrong. You were just wrong.
It's pretty it's gratifying. Also,
wrong would be the word I'd use.
Yeah, wrong is accurate. I'm a big Sean fan also, and again, like anybody with a unique approach is not always rewarded. And speaking of unique approaches at Melvins, let's talk about Tarantula Heart for a segue.
Yeah.
Love Roy Mayorga, humongous fan. I've been following him since we were New Yorkers in the 90s, and he was in like grindcore and death metal bands. Guys got an encyclopedic knowledge of music and drumming. Why, you work with so many interesting choices of people in the past, including I love Steven, like all the things, right? You and Dale, all the things. What drew you to Roy, and how did Roy kind of fit into the dynamic of the band making this record?
Well, the first tour we did after the pandemic was about 2 years ago, opening for Ministry, and Roy was the drummer in Ministry. And we had met him before when we did the hideous Ozfest tour in '98. He was playing with Soulfly, and we had met him there briefly. We met him there, but not a happy experience for me, that tour. Not a happy time, but then he's the drummer in Ministry, and so he after a few shows, then he started coming out and playing a couple songs with us every night. He would come out and join, and so then after I can't remember how many shows we did, 30 some or 40 shows, something like that. After a couple of weeks or so, I started thinking, well, maybe we should get Roy to come and do some drumming with us. It'd be fun. And so I just asked him, would you ever be interested in that? And he said, sure. That sounds cool. We have our own studio in LA with Toshi Kasai, who records a lot of our stuff. And we set up a couple of dates with him. He came over, he brought an ARP synthesizer, like classic synthesizer with him. And we set him up with Dale in our little live room. And then Steven jammed along with them. I had some basic riffs that I wanted to try and just get some drums, and had him lay down some ARP synthesizer stuff. And, we did that for a couple of days. I got like 7 or 8 20-minute plus jams out of that. And then I knew Roy would do a good job. He's a good drummer. Dale's a good drummer, and you get them both together, you're going to find something really cool. And then I took those recordings and I went through them. It took hours and hours of looking until I found things in there that would work, and didn't digitally edit it all together, like chopping beats. Just found sections of the jams that would work, and then wrote, in some cases, completely new music, and some sort of the riff that we were playing, and then wrote music to go along with the drums, as opposed to drums that went along with music. So it gives it this weird kind of feeling. I don't think people would have really recognized it for what it was if I hadn't told them how we did it. But I thought it was such an interesting way of doing it. I'd never done that before, and it didn't occur to me until I started messing around with it. it wasn't what we had planned originally. I wasn't sure exactly what we would do with this stuff. But then once I did the first one, which I think was Allergic to Food, I was like, maybe I could do the whole record like this. And that's what I did. So I went through and recorded new stuff on top of all of it, and then played it for those guys. And they were like, what the hell is this? It's so different than what they had remembered, that it's a completely new thing. Basically, I'd say 80% new,
That's amazing.
So, yeah, we have to be open-minded to the idea that it might work. I did an interview with Toshi, the guy who records our stuff, a few weeks ago, and he's like, the Melvins, I have learned to do all kinds of stuff with the Melvins that no other band will let me do. Because they're so fucking conservative,
Yeah,
we're not.
Great. Yeah, no, of course. And anything is game. I love the ARP stuff. Takes me back to like the Stevie Wonder 70s albums and EOP and things like that.
Sure.
Love that stuff so much. And then so Roy's great, and I love you explaining all that and unpacking that for us. What did Gary bring to the table? Because Gary Chester is, to me, a very great but underrated guy to bring in.
Gary is tremendously underrated. I've known Gary for 30 plus years. It's the late 80s when he was in a band called Ed Hall. That's when I first met him. They were on the same record label as us, which was Boner Records. Our records that we did with Tom Flynn from Boner that we did with him are still available from him to this day. And they were on the same label. And I always thought Gary was an extremely great guitar player. And he's really funny. He's hilariously funny. And he's got a great sense of humor. And so it had always been in the back of my mind to maybe someday do stuff with Gary. I didn't know what or how, but he's the kind of guy that I knew. Well, then we did a tour. We did a bunch of shows with Ed Hall in the past, but then we did a tour a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, where his new band, We Are the Asteroid, were opening for us on a big U.S. tour. Big one. I don't know, 40 some shows or something. And I just, talked to him every single day and watched him play every single day. And I really like their band and I really like the guys in the band. And I was just like, Gary, you should, at the end of this tour, like, a little over a year ago, it was not quite a year and a half ago. You got to come out to LA, come to the studio and for a few days, and you have lots of space on this record. You can come in and do a bunch of stuff on it. So it's just me and him and Toshi, and we found lots of space to put dual guitar solos, all kinds of noise stuff for 8 hours, two or 3 days. I think it was 2 days, 8-hour sessions, maybe 3 days. And then that was it. So Gary is a supremely unique guitar player. And if I was looking for a second guitar player to be in the band, like especially live, he would certainly be one of the guys that I would consider. No doubt about it.
Right on. This is a funny anecdote, by the way. I don't want to sidebar too much with your time being precious, but I saw that tour with We Are the Asteroid at Great American Music Hall here in San Francisco. Yes. And Lars Ulrich's two sons opened that show.
Yes.
And Lars was like literally 5 feet away from me. And my friend elbows me and goes, "Look, it's Lars." And he heard her and goes, "Hey, it's me." I just thought that was hilarious, funny. But he was really supportive. I love those guys. They're actually a killer little band, and I've interviewed them too. So that was really fun and funny. And it was you did a very comprehensive set list that night. I felt like it was a little bit from everything. It was pretty killer for the 40th.
I mean, Taipei Houston are,
yeah,
they're my favorite new band. They were so good. And it was one of the weirdest thing. Our booking agent books them, and he's like, what do you think of this, the two kids from Metallica's Lars Ulrich, their two kids have a band. And I'm thinking, well, what, Metallica Jr. or something, And he goes, no, they're not really Metallica Jr. They're not commercial sounding. See, I'd really like, I'll send you some music, see what you think. And so I was like, sure, I'll check it out. That'd be great. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my God, this stuff is really good. These kids are really good players. They've got a great idea for what they're doing. I'm just severely impressed by this in a way that I would not have guessed. It's so not Metallica and still so good and not commercial at all. And I'm like, where do you guys, and then we played them, I was like, where do you guys get this from? What is your influences? Oh, Radiohead, Arctic Monkeys, like, really? That's what you're getting. That's what you're hearing. It's like, okay. They go, well, we grew up with our dad listening to Black Sabbath and Deep Purple, and so I was like, okay, it makes sense. But they were the nicest kids, and Lars is like 5.5 feet tall, and both these guys are well over 6 feet tall. So I'm like, and whatever happened, however they were raised, the parents did a great job. Those kids could not be nicer. They were really easy to be around and tour with, and I would do more shows with them in a heartbeat. They're really good. Really, really, really liked them a lot.
You love to see it. I thought they were also fantastic in person. Really great and humble. They teched and roadied for themselves. I watched them load their gear into like a hatchback and drive off. So like they were a self-contained unit and really
absolutely
great. They're paying their dues. They're paying their dues. If you need a metal band from the kids of Metallica, James's son is a drummer in a metal band, Pastor Dane, and Trujillo's son obviously is in Suicidal Tendencies and has his own thrash band also. So and the daughter also plays drums. Interesting. Musical families. If kids are your thing, they're not mine, but hey. So yeah, man. Not music is my kids basically.
I like other people's kids.
Yeah, I like to give them back. I like giving them back at about 6 p.m. at night, right before they melt down and have a tantrum. I want to hand them right back. Bye now. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for playing. So Tarantula Heart, man, what a fun and just interesting, complicated, funny record. There's some really great. There's some great whimsy. I don't get to use that word a lot as a journalist. There's some whimsy here that's always part of the Melvins. So let's break this down a little bit. If anything you want to share about the tracks, I'd love to have you. The first track is 20 minutes long, practically 19 minutes long. Pain equals funny.
Yeah, that started with a riff that I did, acoustic kind of version of that riff on my Gift of Sacrifice record. And so, which was a bummer because I had a huge tour planned for me and Trevor Dunn, and then the pandemic hit and that record came out. So I never got to push that record. So me and Trevor are actually doing that starting August 1st. We're doing a 45-date tour of the US and then 25, I think, shows in Europe. Then Ipecac is putting out my first solo record, This Machine Kills Artists, and Gift of Sacrifice is a double album, when we're also including throwing in a also as well. So I don't have that to sell because I never got to push that record at all because the pandemic ruined everything for 2 full years. So that'll be great. And so there's one riff that I kind of messed around with a little bit, that we use as a beginning riff of the record. Then it goes pretty quickly into something else. But so that was there, and then I put completely different vocals on it. I had the middle part is totally different. I had an idea for that. That idea had kind of been sitting around with me for a long time. I wrote that basic riff a while before and then incorporated it into what we were doing in this. And then the ending was a full-on monster jam. Well, jam's not really a good word because it was specific. I mean, people think, when you're jamming, you're just fucking around, but this is more than that. It's like, no, we had a direction. We discussed things. It wasn't just mindless, chugging along. It was more than that. The weird part about that is you would take that kind of thing and then I would write new stuff over it. But this one, the ending of, I'd say the last of Pain Equals Funny is probably as close to maybe what we had originally done in the studio than any of the other songs in the record. And that has a lot of me and Gary playing guitar on it. I mean, and people go, well, it doesn't sound like guitar solos. People have heard. I go, it's guitar solos. It's just not traditional. There's more guitar solos in this record. I'd say there's 10 times more guitar solos in this record than I've ever had on a record, ever. They're just not recognizable immediately as a guitar solo. But that's exactly what they are. And I knew Gary would be really into that kind of thing too. So there's lots of back and forth. We would leave space, play for X amount of time, and then Gary's turn, then my turn, then Gary's turn. And there's just all sorts of that kind of thing at the end of this. And then there's a certain point where the drums really lock in, and I just think it sounds so cool. And then the way that it all ends, I don't know. There's something about that. That's my favorite song on the record, easily. And I don't think it works that well for me without the ending on it, the chaos-ish ending. But it's not really chaos. It's like controlled chaos, sort of, But I'm okay with that. I mean, I have my attention span for that kind of thing is fairly long. I'm capable of listening to long sections of stuff and always have been. I mean, it's nothing new really for us, honestly. We did stuff like that on our first album. We did on the Eggnog record. That's Cool Legged is really. There's songs on there that are really long. Lysol is one long. The first side is one long song. I mean, it's not that particularly new. That idea for us is not particularly new. And Melvins fans should understand that you shouldn't be listening or looking for bright and breezy pop tunes for us in the 3-minute category. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I'm not worried about that sort of thing. I don't have those limitations on what I do. I think it's the best song on the record. I think it's really good. I really love it. All in. Not unlike in a way I really appreciate like Miles Davis, 20-minute songs, or like Echoes by Pink Floyd. I think it's amazing. Amazing. That's like maybe my favorite Pink Floyd song. Maybe. There's plenty of controlled chaos on that. Or, Interstellar Overdrive, or any number of songs that they did that are, or Atom Heart Mother, all those are massive influences on us and always have been I'm since the inception of the band. Yeah. I mean, there's just nothing new.
Floyd is.
I really like that.
My favorite.
What was that?
I was going to say Floyd's my favorite, and that era of Floyd is my favorite era, actually.
Oh my God, they could do no wrong.
Yeah, the soundtrack stuff.
Oh my God, there's like a 6 or 7 year period in there where everything they did was good. A lot of material.
We should all be so lucky in life to be creative and successful. No notes. That was perfect. Thanks for unpacking all that. Working the Ditch. After Working with God, now you're Working the Ditch, the second track.
Yeah, Working with God, yeah. Working the Ditch was, that's a good one. I really like, my favorite part of the song is the ending has a kind of a cycling vocal part that kind of repeats, and it does it like this. There's like 3 cycles of it. And it took me a while to convince Tosh what I was doing with that. And then once I had it done, then this is really cool, because it sounds like it's just repeated and echoed, but it's not. It's actually, those are all, there's no echo. It's all just separate vocal tracks. That took me a while to do. That was fun. That was really fun. But my favorite part of that song is that. And then the other part I really like is how the drums start at the beginning. I really like how the song starts. It's like the drums are it's like kind of like they're tuning up, and then it starts, then the whole song starts, which I really think it's cool. And like, we could have edited that out at the beginning, but I just thought it added, after listening to that stuff for hours on my own, I thought it was a perfect way to start it.
Right on. The third track is She's Got Weird Arms.
She's Got Weird Arms is, I guess I would say it's kind of like a cross between Devo and the Fugs. That's what I would say. Fugs are one of my favorite bands ever. I think that influence on us is lost on people, and they think that, the silly songs and on and on and on. I'm like, it's not really silly. If you're a Fugs fan, it makes perfect sense. I was always liked Zappa as well, but I think the Fugs are probably where he got a lot of that weirder ideas, especially for lyrics. Fugs and clearly Captain Beefheart, but the Fugs, especially the second album, I think they're just, I really can't stress enough the kind of influence they had on what I've done. Them and Alice Cooper, for sure. I think people don't take the Fugs seriously, or they don't know who they are. And I don't know why that is. They are the perfect hippie band as far as like hate hippies. They are hilariously funny. They're really good musicians. Like I said, their sense of humor is 8th grade and absolutely perfect. And I will never tire of it. And the influence, I just don't even know how much of an influence they are on us, because it's been so long that I've thought on the level of how they think, trying to cycle my music through those sorts of ideas, I guess. A Fugs filter sort of, or like a Captain Beefheart filter. I don't think it's readily obvious to people, but it certainly is to me. So I think they're one of the greatest bands ever, and especially the second album. That's the one that I would always return to, even though they have lots of great stuff on lots of their albums. That one is probably the one I like the most, for sure.
Right on. I think our very first interview, we talked a lot about Fugs and Devo. I'm a big Devo guy. The next track is the also exceptional and fun Allergic to Food.
That was the first one I did. that's when I really figured out that I could take these drums and write brand new riffs to it, pretty much brand new, and have it be something completely different. Once I did that one, then it took off. The rest of the record fell into place. I realized I could do it. And that was hard to do because the count is all wrong on it. The drums aren't playing a certain pattern for X amount of times. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, sometimes they do half of it. And so I had to count it all out and figure out exactly how I was going to fit everything into it. And it worked, but it was a lot of work. So it's not the same thing repeated over and over. If you listen to it, it changes throughout the whole thing because there was no set pattern to what they were doing. It was approximate. And that was the best section, I think, out of the whole thing. That was the one I was going to have the easiest time writing music to. But it wasn't easy because I had to sit there and plot it all out on paper and figure out exactly how it was all going to work out. But that one worked out really good. I really like that one. I don't think I've ever done a song quite like that. And I really like the way the vocals came out on that was really good. And I really like the guitar solos they did on it. That's one of the best songs on the record. I would say probably my second favorite.
Definitely great vocals, much like the first song there. Your delivery is fantastic. Really.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool choices there. And then the last track is Smiler.
I kind of had a riff for that we sort of worked out in the studio, so you can kind of hear that they're playing pretty close to what was on the original jam recording, maybe 60% of it, maybe. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I wrote that one, but I had that riff. I thought maybe it'd be a fun one to jam with the drummers, and kind of changes partway through. But I like that one. I think that one came out really good, and it's a great way to end the record. Once we were done with all that, I played the whole thing back before we'd mixed it, and I was just like, oh, yeah, this is good enough. Sounds great. This is a record. It's done. And like none of the band could really, none of the guys involved could believe that we had actually made a record. They're like, we don't even really remember doing this. It's so weird.
Perfect. Yeah. That's probably the best art is made when you don't dwell too hard on it and everything.
So we never rehearsed it. There's no songs that have been rehearsed. We've never played any of these songs. So it's very strange.
How will you relearn them to play any of them live? If
we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do it like we would if we were playing a cover song of someone, essentially. And we'll probably change parts of it, but we always do that anyway. That's nothing new. I've said it before. I learned that lesson really early on because one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band, is The Who. When I was about 12 and I got Live at Leeds, I was like, all these songs are different than they are on the record. And that stuck with me. Oh, you don't have to do it. And you could say, arguably, all the songs on there, Live at Leeds, are better than the versions on the record. You could. The case could be made for that. So I learned that lesson pretty early on. Never forgot it. That you don't have to stick. A record is to me, an album is an album, and a live show is a live show. They're not the same. Why would I approach them the same way? I don't think our audience, or most audiences, think that they're at a live show when they're listening to a record, or think they're listening to a record when they're at a live show. I don't have those kinds of judgments on people. Oh, it doesn't sound exactly like the record. It's like, oh yeah. Neither did Kiss Alive. There are better versions.
Surely the re-recorded went back in and fixed it all up.
They may have. One of my favorite metal albums is Unleashed in the East, Judas Priest. I personally think that's the greatest metal album ever made. And Rob Halford told me that he redid all the vocals because he was sick when they were recorded. He goes, I went and redid them all. And I go, I don't care how you did it. That record is outstanding. It's unbelievable, no matter how they did it. I don't care if you re-recorded the vocals. I think it's the greatest heavy metal record ever made.
Yeah, his book had a whole section about how bad he felt bad doing it at the time, but the label was like, nope, this record's got to come out. Go back in, if you're going to go back in and do it. We'll pay for it. But he felt very conflicted. Even back then, imagine today, nobody's going to give a second thought to it, right? But like back then, his pride and his ethic, his work ethic as a guy, he was like, I don't want to, but like, listen to the tape. It sucks. Like I couldn't sing.
Yeah. Said he was sick, but the record ended up so outstanding that it doesn't matter to me. I just think it's unbelievably great record. I think it's super underappreciated for what it is. The songs are all obviously better than the recorded versions, and I have been playing that record since it came out.
Same here. Really quick, last question for you, Buzz. Man, you're always so good to us. I love to end these with kind of a wild card question. I saw you about a year ago, maybe minus a week or two, in Las Vegas for Sick New World, and you know, always Melvins, best dressed band in the business, always, you know, between you and Steven. But like, how do you do the tunic when it's like 110 degrees with no cloud cover, man? It was brutal out there. I sweated through like 2 shirts that day.
Our stage was actually in the shade a little bit, and we have fans on stage because I have a tendency to pass out, and so the moo that I'm wearing is you know, it's hot, but you know, I'm in fairly good shape, so it's not like I'm ready to pass out or die. As long as I have air moving on stage, I'm okay.
You don't stand still for sure when you play.
No, I don't feel that doesn't work for me.
Right. Does Mackie also make the stage garb still?
No, this girl named Rebecca does it, and she was in the band in the '80s. She was in the band Brightwig. She played guitar, and she used to build her own guitars. And now she's made a bunch of moo-moos for me, and she just made a new guitar strap for me. And she also went on tour and has been on tour for a long time, up until this last tour, doing Kisses costumes. So she's the real deal. She's amazing. I really like her a lot. Super great artist, really fun and funny, and I'm happy to work with her.
That's amazing. We'll make sure to link all that in the description. I'm sure you like having that 6 degrees of separation from the now retired Kiss and the never retiring Melvins, I hope.
Well, you know, Kiss, we'll see, what was that, 50 years for Kiss? But I've heard them say they were retiring before. So.
I went to the farewell tour a few times. So,
yeah, there's a few farewells. It's been a long farewell.
It sure was. Hey, Buzz, man, thank you so much. You're always so good to us. You're so generous with your time. Thanks so much for everything and hanging with Ghost Cult, man. We appreciate you.
I appreciate any interest and any interest from any of you people. Thank you so much.